Yep, that's me. The guy in the chains. I guess you're probably wondering how I got here, huh? Well, my friends, I'd be more than happy to tell you that little tale. But you're gonna have to wait just a moment because the torturer is back. This guy. He's quite the little scoundrel. If you'll excuse me for just 1 second. Ooh, that does not tickle. Okay, alright, let's tell the story. It was a standard operation just like any other. My army and I were tasked with taking down the UNSC of this planet as well as the heretics. Nothing that we hadn't done 1,000 times before. And we had multitudes of soldiers among our ranks. The majority of our forces were comprised of some minor elites called hinge heads with the corresponding armor and weaponry. They were essentially cannon fodder. Next up we had our major class, nicknamed Squidface, with the corresponding weapons and armor as well. Next up we had an interesting class, our hinge head snipers. Now they were kinda normal except they had beam rifles, and you may also notice that they have a cloaking device. And last but not least we have our meaty boy Healy. This is a minor class that specializes in needlers. Now with all that boring yakety yak bullshit out of the way, let's kill something. We spotted the heretic base not far from where we landed, and of course we quickly made our way there so that we could cleanse this planet of their filthy blasphemy. Their base was extremely large, but that was quite alright. It just meant that there were more of them to slaughter. And that of course is immediately what we began doing. They began running at us with their human-made armor and weapons. Blech, disgusting. And we brought down the might of the prophets upon their filthy hinge heads. Those scaly, four-jawed bastards never seen it coming. After a while of torturing them and pillaging their lands, we had finally destroyed their base. But this, my friends, was nothing but a small appetizer for the full entree of the UNSC awaits. And if we plan on earning our spot in the great journey, we are going to have to murder them all. We immediately began clearing out the rest of the heretic base to ensure that there were none of them hiding. After ensuring that there were no more blasphemous bastards among us, we all began having a little snooze out in the grass and just daydreaming of our lords, the Forerunners. Ever so relaxing. Since we didn't have any permanent base or anything on this planet just yet, we decided to make a temporary one here for the night. We began moving furniture around and whatnot to ensure that we were quite comfortable while we were staying here. But the very next day, we would begin making plans on our first assault on the first UNSC base. It should be quite easy as the UNSC has yet to be aware of our presence on the planet. So we set our sights out on this first base and made our way there. And though this base was quite large, just as we had suspected, their defenses were lacking. With that as well, even though they had several ODSTs and Marines, they were lacking many Spartans. With defenses like these, how could we not attack? It was like taking methane from an Ungoy. Just so easy that you just can't help yourself. Their soldiers were caught completely off guard by our assault, which was perfect just as we had planned. We slaughtered them all on the battlefield, and eventually we had defeated them. And so we were off to the next UNSC base to demolish it and murder everyone there, of course. Just after arriving at this base, we did notice some heightened defenses. It is possible, of course, that they had heard what had happened to the last base and were trying to prepare for our arrival. But we had something up our sleeve for these filthy animals. We were going to glass this base. Once the glassing began, the humans and their structures were turning into dust on the ground. After giving them a taste of our holy fire, we moved in with our army to finish off any remaining soldiers. Then the pathetic cowards began to flee. Some time later, after eradicating several more UNSC bases, that was just basically some more of the same. We move in and slaughter them. We decided that it was time for us to set up our own permanent outpost. Lucky for us, we had been collecting quite a few resources from the heretics and the UNSC bases that we were destroying, just basically what was left over, like beds and stone blocks, steel, plasteel, etc. And this ensured that we were able to create some very nice housing as well as a very nice base overall to to stay in during this time. I mean, just look how nice and cozy our Sangheli are. After saying their prayers to our forerunner gods, they're all just lying in their bed, dreaming of the great journey. Now the base was looking a little bit drab, so I thought, hey, maybe we throw a little bit of Covenant purple in there, so we started building some barricades as well as plasma turrets for defenses. Not only did these look a lot better, but they would also keep us somewhat safe. Naturally, of course, we also built a place to prepare meals as well as dine with our comrades. We also created a nice small area for our storage. And after some time, we finally had a wonderful little outpost. Sure, it looks kind of like dog shit, but it was extremely functional. And hey, I mean, it has some pretty cool blue lights. But blue lights were not cool enough to save us from what was coming. It would appear that our gods have reawakened, and they were not happy. It may be possible that they were extremely angry about the UNSC and heretic presence on this planet, and they had planned on bringing their wrath down on those who were supposed to stop it. Or maybe it's possible that our entire religion is a death cult and the great journey is just one big sham. Nah, that can't be it. Either way though, these forerunners were packing heat and they were coming to try and kill us, so naturally the only thing that we would be able to do is defend ourselves. I'm sure the prophets will understand. I mean, they seem like very caring and sweet overlords. Anyhow though, our army prepared for this massive battle against the Forerunners. It was going to be quite difficult, especially with them having more advanced armor and weaponry, but we would defend ourselves or die trying. As the massive Forerunner army approached, we immediately began opening fire on them and actually managed to have some success with killing several of their soldiers. Obviously though, it helped quite a bit that the first wave of their massive raid was such a small party. We would not be so lucky in the future, I'm sure. Their installation monitors as well as their soldiers were extremely resilient though, so we would have to continue pushing forward. We even managed to request a glassing from a nearby ship who had no idea that they were basically glassing their gods, and it was during this time as well the UNSC dropped in from above to join the fight. We would now have to fight a war on both fronts against the Forerunners as well as the UNSC. We were not equipped for such a large battle. We began throwing down our bubble shields to try and protect our soldiers. It was at this point I, the commander, Wartwort, had fallen, but my men continued to fight on. By this point in the battle, many of our men had been lost as well as many of the Forerunners. Even the demon was here, and he was causing immeasurable chaos upon the battlefield. We attempted to flee. We attempted to make a strategic retreat, away from him. No, we weren't running away. But unfortunately, this would prove to be futile. He shot his weapons so fast that it was almost as if there was a little blue e-girl in his head telling him where to aim and what to do. Unfortunately, his might knew no bounds, though there was no way for us to escape and or fight him off. He murdered and maimed so many of our soldiers. It was a true catastrophe. It was disgusting to even look at. He snuck up behind our last remaining hingehead and blew his brains out all over the ground. What a savage animal. Unfortunately though, we had been defeated. There was nothing more we could do. Our soldiers lie on the ground in pools of their own blood, our false gods burning. A rescue team did arrive, and luckily I had survived. However, being the only surviving member and also being the commander, the entire thing was blamed on me. And now if you'll excuse me, I think the executioner wants to have a word.